Chapter 1 The Heartbreak Kid. In every kiss, you understand that living is for other men. Richard Ashcroft. Dickie, let me do this bit. You won't be able to do it. On my friend's instruction, I hand him the controller, and sure enough, he successfully hops from one ledge to another, collecting every coin along the way. I'd normally be the one showing people how it's done, but the generic platform game doesn't quite grab my attention. As I sit watching someone else play the game, I'm left wondering why I left the sanctuary of my own gaming haven to slum it at a friend's house. Decades later, as I write this, the answer is finally clear to me. What may sound like two 10-year-old boys squabbling over the controls is actually an exchange of profound significance. You see, this kid would go on to marry my childhood sweetheart. I wasn't just handing him a controller, I was handing him the keys to a life I might have lived. I first became aware of the opposite sex at the age of 8, as we all sat waiting to begin the first day of primary school in the autumn of 1989. It was to be a new level of education, under a new set of teachers, and my head was buried in a book to quell the heady mixture of anxiety and anticipation.
"You're a fast reader,"
exclaims a soft female voice from across the table. I look up to find the prettiest girl in class paying me a cryptic compliment. I smile bashfully and think nothing more of it, but she presses further and explains, as articulately as an 8-year-old can, that she had been staring into my eyes so intently that she could tell I was a fast reader from the speed at which they were moving from side to side. Although it went over my head at the time, it was an affectionate gesture, one of many we would share on our awkward dance towards puberty. The gender divide naturally kept us apart on the playground, but I always looked forward to having an excuse to sit near her in class. Ironically, I was the one sentenced to sit next to her as punishment. A friend and I were considered to be distracting each other in class, so we were paired up with females to learn some decorum. I was burdened with this girl, and we could scarcely believe our luck as we had an excuse to get to know each other better over the following weeks. Of course, the teacher's plan backfired. On top of everything else, it turned out we had the same sense of humor, too, and giggled our way through practically every lesson. Ha 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 ha. Having the undivided attention of the most sought-after girl in the school didn't go unnoticed by the other boys, though. Even in these prepubescent times, emotions would run high when it came to the opposite sex. One young ladies' man in the making chose to assert himself as the alpha male by, quite literally, jumping me from behind. He leapt onto my back as I was walking home from school one day and clutched me in a sleeper hold. Unfortunately for him, my newfound obsession with wrestling had also kicked in at this point, and I instinctively tossed him over my shoulder, landing him flat on his back. After a tense silence, he then broke out into laughter and began applauding my efforts. I had never seen someone so happy about getting their ass kicked. As he got back up to his feet, he claimed that he was only having a laugh, and even invited himself round to my house that night, as if the exchange had made us the best of friends. One additional boon was that the scuffle had the good fortune to take place in view of the local bully, who must have taken me for a tough kid, because he never gave me any trouble for the remainder of my school life. The enamored thug even asked me to unscrew a bottle top that he had been struggling with in the canteen one afternoon. In actuality, this powerful reputation wasn't warranted at all. At this stage, I was neither strong nor aggressive, and I would have crumbled like all the others, had he taken the initiative to challenge me. I guess bullies are cowards, though, and he wasn't prepared to roll the dice on any kid who had defended themselves before, even if it was accidentally. Another aspiring Casanova in our class was Matthew Sparrow, one of the few who actually had the guts to march over to this girl and ask her out. I'll never forget the expression on his face as he dejectedly came back over to me and conceded, "All she talks about is you." If it's any consolation, he's a successful footballer, and now I'm sure he can have any girl he wants. In truth, there was very little to be jealous of anyway. As a pair of prepubescent kids, the emotions we felt amounted to little more than an affectionate glance and a few mumbled words. Talk about the love that dare not speak its name. This was the love that couldn't even pronounce its name. Ha 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 ha. However, being a painfully shy child, I rather enjoyed the excuses that youth brought. I would later feel out of my depth when the onset of puberty raised the stakes and demanded that bashful smiles evolve into something more. By the time we had moved on to secondary school, teenagers were kissing and cuddling in every corner of the yard, and I was cordially invited to join their number. During a science lesson, this girl and I were flirting outrageously, and she finally asked me if I'd go out with her. I instinctively said yes, and then proceeded to do absolutely nothing about it. I had no idea what going out with somebody actually involved, nor would I have had the confidence to execute it even if I did. And so I continued to be my normal aloof self. Suffice to say, it wasn't the response she was looking for, and she eventually gave up on me. She would be the first of many girls that ended up heartbroken and confused at the door of my inaccessible personality. A friend of hers, who was equally attractive, threw her hat into the ring soon afterwards, but again, I couldn't bring myself to return her affections. It was all a game to me, and I was still far too young to take any of it seriously. This self-destructive streak reached its zenith towards the end of secondary school when a girl called Claire fell for me in a major way. She was attractive enough, and unlike the others, accompanied it with an intelligence that matched my own, but there were certain cultural differences that couldn't be avoided. Although my aptitude hid it well, I came from poor stock and a broken home at this point, whereas she was unmistakably middle class and the product of a happy home. Every time I dared to reciprocate her attempts to talk to me, it would rear its ugly head. At one point, she began talking about her dad's people carrier, and I scoffed that was an odd way to describe a car. Little did I know it was a legitimate name of a gigantic vehicle that sits outside the houses of rich people. Even if we were more compatible, my attitude was still profoundly immature at this stage. I liked the attention I was getting, and yet I was too self-conscious to endorse anybody as my girlfriend, and so began a torturous push and pull that drove this girl, and many others, to distraction. As surely as the first girl wasted her childhood on me, this one wasted half of her teenage life waiting for me to act normally, and ultimately went home empty-handed, like all the others. Part of me wanted what was on offer during these potentially romantic years, and yet the other half of me stubbornly refused to allow it to happen. It's my belief that my life was approaching a crossroads at this point in time. Down one road lay the perfect personal life, where love blossoms with the girl of my dreams, complete with the house, the car, the kids, and the stable job that pays for all of the above. But down the other lay the perfect professional life, where extricating myself from such things would give me the time and space to do something special, and the mindset to do it well. Subconsciously, I chose the latter and set in motion a course of events that would make the former increasingly unlikely. And so it became my fate to see other people stepping up to the roles I had neglected. When my friend said, "Let me do this bit, you won't be able to do it," he wasn't talking about a game, he was talking about life. When I put that controller in his hands, I left the playing to him and set about becoming the creator. That may sound a little melodramatic when we're talking about a few silly games, but the soul doesn't care by what means it fulfills its purpose. Like a newborn baby that thrashes in the womb before making its triumphant entrance, the soul delights in a body that's doing what it loves and refuses to let it sleep at night, such is the excitement about what will be achieved the next day. It further rejoices at the prospect of doing the thing so well that it inspires thousands of others likewise. This is the experience for which my soul yearned, and it seemed intent on removing all human obstacles to get there. The cute kid that broke the heart of any girl that came near.